Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And I understand one or more of you asked the bailiff a question about if at any time during the trial you need to stand up and stretch. That's fine. I'd suggest just raising your hand so we don't think that you're trying to leave the jury box, but just raise your hand and we'll certainly give you time to stand up and make yourself comfortable if you need that. Mr. Latour, evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would call at this time retired Agent Danny Mays.
Sir, if you would please place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Sir, do you solemnly swear the testimony you give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Latour.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Mays, will you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Danny Mays.
And are you currently employed?
I am.
How are you currently employed?
I'm employed as a background investigator with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office in Winston-Salem.
How long have you been doing that?
Almost 2 years.
Before that, were you employed?
I was.
How were you employed before that?
I was employed as an assistant special agent in charge in the SBI Greensboro office.
When you say the SBI, is that State Bureau of Investigation?
That's correct.
Okay. And as a, I think you said assistant special agent in charge, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What would your duties be with all of those, with that title?
I was responsible for supervising a team of 4 agents, criminal agents, a polygraph agent, and a crime scene agent. And I was also responsible for administrative duties in the office, and I was also a criminal investigator.
How long did you work for the SBI?
18 years.
Were you always in that same role with the SBI?
No, sir.
What other roles did you hold while you worked for the SBI?
I started out in the southern Piedmont, which is the Charlotte area, as a criminal drug agent. And then I transferred back to Greensboro with primary duties in Caswell County and Alamance County. I was a criminal agent. Then I transferred to the Forsyth County and Stokes County area, and I was a criminal agent there. And then I transferred to the Raleigh office and worked in special investigations involving public corruption cases, cases like that. And then I went back to Greensboro, where I retired as assistant special agent in charge.
And you've told us what your role was, but what is the SBI's job, and how do they get involved in cases?
The SBI's primary role is an assisting agency for law enforcement agencies, fire departments, things like that across the state. The SBI, however, only has original jurisdiction in certain cases, those being election law violations, arson cases, drug cases, daycare investigations, things like that. So sort of limited. But the way the SBI primarily gets involved in cases is from a request from a local police department, sheriff's department, a district attorney, a superior court judge, the attorney general, or the governor can make a request to the SBI.
Once you receive one of those requests, is that when you would then open up an official investigation?
That's correct.
All right. In 2016 or so, is that when you were still in Greensboro?
I was.
And during the course of your employment with the SBI, did you ever come into contact or have reason to suspect that an investigation should potentially be open involving Wallace Bradsher?
That's correct.
Okay, and how did that come about?
We were approached by Jason Ramey, who is, at the time, was an assistant district attorney in the Rockingham County District Attorney's Office.
Okay, when you say we were approached, who are you referring to?
The SBI.
And were you involved in any meetings with Jason Ramey?
I was.
Were you involved in Jason Ramey's initial meeting with the SBI?
I met with him in April of 2016 in the Greensboro office.
And was there a reason that you met with him in the Greensboro office?
He wanted to meet away from Rockingham County, and we agreed that the Greensboro SBI office would be an appropriate location.
And I think you said on April the 6th of 2016, you actually had that meeting in Greensboro?
That's correct.
When you had that meeting, can you describe Jason Ramey and how he appeared for your meeting?
Yes, sir. He came to the SBI office. He was wearing a Duke Blue Devils t-shirt. He had khaki shorts on, flip-flops, and I believe he had aviator sunglasses.
When you met with him, in general, what was the what information did he provide to you, or why did he indicate to you that he wanted to meet with you?
He provided information that District Attorney Blitzer and District Attorney Bradsher had their wives were working for each district attorney, the other's district attorney.
Meaning that are you saying that he provided you with information that they had hired each other's wives?
That's correct.
All right. And did that information stand out to you in any way when you received it?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
I thought it was unusual that a district attorney's wife would be working for another district attorney's wife.
Okay, and when you discovered that, what did you do?
I started looking into it at that time.
Now, is that the extent of the information that you were provided at that point, that they were working for each other, or were you provided any other information about whether or not they were actually conducting any work?
Only that at the time that they were working for the other district attorney, each wife.
Okay. And when you began to look into it, what did you do?
One of the things I did was I went to the administrative office of the court here in Raleigh, and I checked to see if the wives were indeed working, who they were working for, and what the salary was for the wives.
Okay. Now, when you met with, did you meet with anybody else before you went to AOC here in Raleigh?
I did.
Who'd you meet with?
I met with Sheriff Mike Welch, who is, at the time, was sheriff of Caswell County. I met with Lee Farmer, who was a defense attorney in Caswell County. And I met with Debbie Halbrook, Halbrook, who was an administrative assistant in the Caswell County DA's office.
Now, as soon as you received the information or a request for an investigation from Jason Ramey, did you immediately go and follow up on that information?
Not immediately. I mean, of course, at the time, as I said, I was responsible for supervising a team of agents. I had cases myself I was working, so I did not immediately pursue that at that time.
When you spoke with Jason Ramey, was there ever any mention about nursing school?
There was.
And what was the discussion, or what information did you receive about nursing school?
That Cindy Blitzer, who at the time was the wife of Craig Blitzer, the district attorney in Rockingham County, that she was in school at South University. South University is located between the airport area of Greensboro and the High Point area off of Highway 68.
And did he tell you when she was apparently attending those classes?
Yes, he did.
What was your understanding of when Cindy Blitzer would be attending classes?
He gave me a time frame of when she would be there and at the college that she was taking classes.
Okay. And the time frame that he provided for you, would that have been during the regular working day, or was that on weekends and nights that she was attending classes?
During the working day.
And did you receive any information at that time that she was possibly still being paid for state employment while attending nursing school?
I did.
Who provided you with that information?
Well, Mr. Ramey told me that she was employed in the district attorney's office and that she was being paid. I verified that through the administrative office of the court, who told me that she was being paid.
Okay. Now, you said you met with Sheriff Welch, is that correct?
I did.
When did you meet with Sheriff Welch? Would that have been around May the 18th of 2016?
Yes, sir. It was in May.
Okay. So the initial information that you receive about this nursing school and the employment of the wives by each other district attorney was April the 6th of 2016.
That's correct.
And when you received all of that information, was the next thing that you did meet with Sheriff Welch?
I'm not certain. I may have run the information, each of the district attorneys and their wives, and checked to see where they lived, what kind of cars they had.
Okay, so at some point in that time frame, you do a kind of not a background check, but some sort of a check to get some general biographical information?
Yes, sir.
All right. And why do you do something like that?
That's part of the investigation, is to either try to prove or disprove the information that we were provided, if it was correct or if it was not.
And if the information that you had been provided you could not substantiate in any way, what would you have done?
Case, it would not have gone any further.
Okay. At the time of your meetings with, I think you said Lee Farmer and Sheriff Welch and Jason Ramey, was there an official SBI investigation ongoing?
No, there was not.
Okay. What were you doing during that period of time? Why were you looking into any of this then if there's not an official investigation?
Again, trying to prove or disprove whether there's any viable information to go forward to a Superior Court judge and provide the information to a Superior Court judge and let him decide whether there should be an official investigation.
Okay. And is that normal procedure for you?
It would be. A lot of times, however, when we would be provided information, we would go to a district attorney and provide that information to the elected district attorney for whatever jurisdiction and let the elected district attorney make that decision.
Well, did you do that in this case?
We did not.
Why did you decide not to go to the elected district attorneys for these two counties and talk to them about it?
Okay, because at that time, we had been provided information about each district attorney's wives working for the other, and it would be appropriate to provide that information to a Superior Court judge and let the Superior Court judge make the decision on whether there should be an official investigation.
Okay, so is what you're saying then that you did not want to go to the people that you were attempting to investigate to ask them if you should investigate them?
That's correct.
All right. And at some point you said you met with Sheriff Welch, right?
I did.
And that was in May of 2016.
Yes, sir.
And when you met with Sheriff Welch, without getting into specifics of what he told you, did he provide you with information along the same lines or other information that you felt warranted your continued investigation into this matter?
He did.
And when you left Sheriff Welch, did you then go and speak to Lee Farmer?
I did.
And
A couple of days later.
Okay, would that have been about May the 23rd of 2016?
Yes, sir, it was.
And again, without getting too far into what the specifics of what he told you, did he provide you with further information about this employment of wives that in your mind made you decide yes or no you needed to continue the investigation?
He did.
And after speaking with those three people, was your opinion that you needed to move forward with looking into this further, or did you decide nothing substantiated, we need to move on?
No, I believe I met with Miss Hallbrook after Mr. Farmer.
Okay. And when you met with Ms. Hallbrook, was she able to provide you similar information?
She was.
And during any period of these interviews or your investigation, did you find anything that made you decide that you should not look forward or continue to advance this investigation?
No, I believe the investigation should go forward. Or it was not an investigation. It was me just trying to, again, verify whether or not to continue forward to provide information to a Superior Court judge for him to make the decision whether there should be an official investigation.
Okay, and I'm using the word investigation, but I get informal investigation or a fact-checking expedition.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And while you're on this road of trying to find out whether or not you should present this information to a Superior Court judge, those are the four people that you've met with thus far, right?
That is correct.
After meeting with those folks, did you then decide to, you had said that you spoke to AOC. Is that when you decided to then come forward and go to the Administrative Office of the Courts, or was that later?
I met with AOC officials on June the 30th of 2016.
Yeah, would that have included Deborah Tant, Watkins?
Deborah Watkins and Mike Smith.
All right. And during the course of what was the reason for you coming to Raleigh to talk to those people?
I wanted to hear from them officially if the ladies were working and who they were working for.
Okay, and were you able to determine that?
I was.
And were you able to determine who were you able to determine that Cindy Blitzer was working for?
Miss Blitzer was indicated as having been working for Mr. Bradsher.
Okay, and did you have a listed supervisor there that you were told that was approving her times or was supposed to be approving her time?
I was.
And who did you learn was supposed to be approving her time?
John Stoltz III.
And did you learn what type of position she being Cindy Blitzer, was employed by Wallace Bradsher as?
I was a DA investigator.
And were you given do you know how much money, rather, through your investigation, were you able to determine how much money Cindy Blitzer was to be paid annually for that position as an investigator?
I was. $48,000 a year.
I'm sorry?
$48,000 per year.
Okay. And when looking into that, after you receive all of this information, what did you decide to do next?
At that point, I decided to start driving by South University at different days, at different times, to determine whether Miss Blitzer's vehicle was parked at school.
And why did you decide to do that?
I was trying to verify if Miss Blitzer was a student at South University or if she wasn't.
And again, at this point, is there an official investigation that's going on, or is this still you looking into this reports that you've received?
Just me looking into it to try to, again, verify or disprove whether the information was correct or not.
And you had said that at some point you did a check to determine whether or not Craig and Cindy Blitzer owned any automobiles.
I did.
And were you able to determine whether or not they owned any, and if they did, how many automobiles they owned?
Yes, I did. Give me one second.
Okay.
Yes, sir. On July the 1st, I verified that through the Department of, through the SBI database, verified that the Blitzers owned a 2005 Mercedes E320, a 2002 Toyota Highlander, and a 2007 BMW X3.
Okay. And this is all on July the 1st?
Yes, sir.
Is that July the 1st of 2016?
That's correct.
And on or about July the 1st of 2016, is that when you began your drive-by and or surveillance at South University?
It was.
Before that, did you make any requests of access to the an ability for folks to access the Caswell County Courthouse?
I did.
When did you make that request? Would that have been June the 8th of 2016? Or around that time?
June the, what date?
8th?
Yes. It was June 8th.
All right, and on June the 8th, what type of information did you receive?
Sheriff Welch provided me with persons having keys and key cards to the Caswell County Courthouse.
Okay. And was there any indication, or do you know or have any personal knowledge as to whether Cindy Blitzer had official access to the Caswell County Courthouse?
The review showed that Cindy Blitzer, as having, she did not have a key or key card to get into the Caswell County Courthouse.
Okay. And so, I guess just to keep us on track, chronologically, April the 6th, you have the first meeting with Jason Ramey, your meeting with Jason Ramey. Then, May the 18th is Sheriff Welch. May the 23rd, Lee Farmer and or Debbie Hallbrook. And then you come to Raleigh, and then you're provided the key cards?
That's correct.
Okay.
I did meet with Ms. Hallbrook by herself.
All right.
Mr. Farmer was not present during that interview.
Okay. And then that July the 1st, 2016 interview occur, I'm sorry, not interview, surveillance begins to occur.
That's correct.
Can you tell us in general terms, without getting into the specifics yet, about your surveillance? How did you go about doing the surveillance at South University?
I drove by the parking lot of South University, small, not small, it's a large brick building with one parking lot. And I was trying to show or not whether the vehicles that I had located as being owned by the Blitzers, if either of those any of those vehicles were at the college.
Okay. And did you pick the same time every day to go over there, or did you pick different times?
Different times.
How did you arrive at what times you were to go and perform this surveillance, or was it random?
Simply random.
Okay. Did you pick, I know it's random, but did you pick only work hour times, or did you pick work hour and after work or before work?
Generally, it was between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Why did you narrow your search between those time frames?
I had no reason for picking that. I just assumed that if she was taking classes, it would be during the day.
Okay. And did your suspicions and the information that you had received from these folks that she might be attending school there pan out?
It did.
And for over a period of time, did you continue this investigation, or did you just do it I keep saying investigation, but this surveillance, or did you just do it for one day?
Numerous days.
Okay. When did you begin that?
Friday, July the 1st, 2016.
And on Friday, July the 1st of 2016, were you able to locate a motor vehicle that belonged to the Blitzers at South University?
I did. The 2007 BMW X3.
Around what time were you able to locate that?
11:33 a.m.
And when was the next time that you went to the school and saw her car?
Tuesday, July the 5th, 2016 at 9:28 a.m.
Did you see it again at 1:42 p.m.?
I did.
So twice that day?
That's correct.
When was the next time?
Wednesday, July the 6th, 2016 at 9:08 a.m.
Was that a one time, or did you see it again?
Just one time on that day.
When was the next time that you went by?
Thursday, July 17, 2016 at 1:50 p.m.
Okay. Is there another side of the school where some surveillance was being conducted as well?
Yes, the parking lot was to the north and the west side of the building as one would drive into the building.
Okay. And during the course of all of this, were there times that the car was seen at another location nearby the school?
Yes, sir.
And would that have been, and did you make notes of all of that?
I did.
And was there a time on 7/7/16 that the car was located?
On 7/7/16?
Yes.
It was located at 1:50 p.m. on the north side of the building.
Okay, and was it again located that same day at 9:46 a.m.?
9:46 a.m. on July the 6th, 2016 at 9:08.
Okay. Okay, and we'll come back to that.
I'm sorry.
But what about on the 28th?
I did not see it.
Okay. And what about the 29th?
It was
Okay. What time?
10:14 a.m.
Okay. Now, you say that it was there on the 26th twice. At some point on the 26th, or at some point during all of these surveillance of looking at the cars in the parking lot, was anybody or ever able to see Cindy Blitzer getting out of the car and going into the school?
She was.
Okay. And y'all were able to identify her?
We were.
And how were you able to identify her?
Special Agent in charge, Scott Williams, notified me on July the 26th at 8:50 a.m. that he had seen Miss Blitzer exit her BMW X5.
Okay. Now, did you end the surveillance on 7/29 of 2016? Or did you keep going after that?
The surveillance concluded by me. If there was any surveillance done after that, I'm not privy to that.
All right. After you had done all of this and been provided this information that Cindy Blitzer is going to school at South University during work hours, and you've done this surveillance project, are we still at a point where there's not an official investigation?
That's correct. There was no official investigation at that point.
At some point, did that change?
It did.
When did that change?
It was sometime in August. The case, what I had done, I provided my information to the Special Investigations Unit of the SBI.
Okay. And are you aware if an official investigation was opened up?
I am.
And what was the method by which the official investigation was opened up?
Assistant Special Agent in Charge Whitley and I met with Superior Court Judge Osmond Smith at his home in Caswell County and provided the information to him.
When you provided the information to Osmond Smith, the Superior Court Judge of Caswell County, did he say, go ahead, open an investigation up?
No, sir.
Okay. What were you informed of, and what did you do as a result of that?
He was not comfortable making a decision for the SBI to go forward since he knew Mr. Bradsher, and he told Assistant Special Agent in Charge Whitley and myself that he needed to talk with a representative from the administrative office of the court to get some instruction on what should happen from there.
Did you, at some point, did you receive information about what to do?
I did not.
Okay. At some point was this information, if you're aware of, presented to another Superior Court judge?
It was.
Do you know what Superior Court judge it was?
I never met with him, but I do know it was Judge Joseph Crosswhite.
All right. And after someone met with Judge Crosswhite, is that when the quote-unquote official investigation began by the SBI?
That is correct.
All right. Now, excuse me, in 2016, do you have, I guess we're now in August of 2016, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in August of 2016, did you stick around the SBI, or what did you do?
I retired.
All right. And when you retired, what happened with all the information that you had gathered involving this nursing school and district attorney job situation?
At that point, there is an official investigation from authorized by Judge Crosswhite, and I step away and provide everything I've got to Agent Whitley.
Okay. And from that point on, do you have any interaction or involvement in the investigation of any of the folks that you've listed earlier today?
None.
Thank you. Let me have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Questions at this time, Your Honor?
Cross-examination, Mr. Bradsher.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mays, nice to see you.
Good morning.
What is your preferred title now?
You can call me Mr. Mays or Deputy Mays, whatever.
All right. How are things in Forsyth County?
Good, thank you.
Great. I wanted to ask you, from the SBI report, there's a synopsis. I know you're familiar with it in general, having a synopsis with the report. You were with the SBI for 18 years, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. The synopsis indicates a 2015 meeting with Lee Farmer with you. Do you have any recollection of that?
No, sir.
Okay. If, I know you went through SBI training and you're more familiar with the policies than me, when you have statements taken before an official investigation begins, is there a certain policy or procedure that's in place that governs how you document that?
It should be documented. The note should be, if you're talking about what I did, I made notes of everything I did.
All right? And in general, every encounter, even if it's not an official investigation, you would make notes. Is that right?
That'd be correct.
Okay. And so, based on your notes, you believe that you met with Lee Farmer at May 23rd, 2016, not 2015.
I didn't meet with him in 2015.
All right? Also, referring to the report, are you aware that Jason Ramey spoke with anybody with the SBI in December of 2015?
He did not meet with me. He may have met with Agent Strader, Ben Strader. Mr. Strader's wife was a district court judge in Rockingham County, and Mr. Strader had been given this information from Mr. Ramey, and Mr. Strader passed that information along to the supervision, including myself, in the SBI office.
All right, and that's what I wanted to clarify for the jury. This information about two DAs hiring each other's wives initially came to you through another person, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, do you recall or have in your notes who would have given you the information that in December of 2015 that Jason Ramey was appearing to the SBI saying that each DA was hiring each other's wife?
You'd have to show me that, because I don't believe I documented anything like that in December. Okay.
Well, first let me ask you your recollection, because honestly I don't have the transition documentation either. I see a statement from Strader with regards to the meeting in December 2015. But I wanted to ask, do you recall that you received anything in writing from Strader or your superiors transferring that information of what he said December 2015?
I didn't get anything like that.
Okay. So based on your recollection then, how do you come to meet with Jason Ramey in April of 2016?
April of 2016. I believe, and again, I'm not certain, I think it was myself contacted based on the information that was provided to me by Mr. Strader, the telephone number for Mr. Ramey, his personal cell phone.
Do you know a Michael Scott Williams?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who is he?
He is the special agent in charge in the SBI Greensboro office.
All right, so just to get the chronology down, at any point were you made aware by Jason Ramey that he had met with Agent Strader in December of 2015?
I don't know when he met with him, if it was a meeting, or I don't know anything about that.
Okay. So in terms of from December 2015 to April of 2016, which you're telling the jury about now, you have no personal knowledge as to what, if anything, the SBI did with regards to the information Jason Ramey gave to Strader in December.
I don't know what happened with the information, other that Mr. Strader apparently received some information because that Mr. Ramey's name was provided to the management team.
I think I will try to refresh your recollection. If I could have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I apologize. Are my own numbers or letters? I forgot.
Numbers, sir.
Thank you. I'll label this as Defendants 1, Your Honor. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mays, I'm handing what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1. And just like for you to read that to yourself for a moment, and then I'd like to ask you a question, see if it refreshes your recollection any.
Okay.
Okay. Now, having looked at that, does that refresh your recollection any in terms of how the sequence of events occurred from the time Jason Ramey met with Agent Strader in 2015 until he meets with you in April of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us how it refreshes your memory.
Well, it appears from the interview, Mr. Strader was, that he met with Mr. Ramey in December of 2015.
Okay. And then in terms of that meeting, now I'm going to ask you a general policy question. Since you were 18 years, you knew Agent Strader, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. So he is there as an agent December 2015. Once he received information like this, what was the protocol? What was he supposed to do?
He should provide it with supervision since, like I told you, his wife was, a district court judge.
Right.
And that he should provide it to the management, the special agent in charge of the office.
Okay, this report indicates, and since you've reviewed it with regards to you, that he did tell Assistant Special Agent in Charge Danny Mays about the situation at some point they met. So I'm trying to, while I've got you here,
Sure.
to ask your recollection, the at some point. He meets, isn't it true that he meets with Agent Strader December 2015, and that at some point he talks to you about the situation? Do you remember what the some point was?
It would not have been in December.
Okay.
I would have begun checking it out. I would have called Mr. Ramey in December.
All right.
Versus April of 2016.
Okay, so before, when I was asking general policy for the SBI, and you indicated it would go to supervision, is that a term in a chain of command? Like, was there somebody over Agent Strader that he would report this to?
There is, like myself, Mr. Strader had an assistant special agent in charge that supervised him. If I may, in each SBI office, there is a special agent in charge. He is the person for the overall district, the supervision of the assistant special agents in charge, the administrative staff, the overall running of the office. And then underneath him, as it was in 2016, there were 3 assistant special agents in charge, or maybe 4 at the time. I don't recall, including myself.
All right. So in terms of his direct supervisor, you don't know a name?
I think that would be Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Brian Norman.
Okay.
I believe had him at that time.
All right, now you've been retired a while. I'm going to flash forward to the future. You were recently contacted while the DA's office was preparing this case, weren't you?
I believe it was a month or 2 months ago. Yes, sir.
All right, and do you recall being asked about this 2015 meeting?
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. Do you recall, were you asked about a sequence of events of things that happened?
They did, yes,
Okay.
sir. And my involvement began in April of 2016.
All right. So before April 2016, you're certain you can tell this jury you did not have any involvement in this case?
I had no involvement prior to April of 2016.
And one last time to clear it up, and you have no personal knowledge as to anything Agent Strader or any other SBI agent did with the information that Jason Ramey brought them in December of 2015?
I'm not privy to any information that Mr. Ramey provided to any SBI agent prior to my being involved in it in April of 2016.
All right. Do you know a Mike Denning?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And you tell the jury who Mike Denning is.
In 2016, Mike Denning was the special agent in charge of the Capital District office, which is located here in Raleigh.
All right. And are you aware of any contact made with him with regards to this complaint from either Lee Farmer or Jason Ramey in 2015?
I have no information about
Okay.
that.
All right. So we'll get back to your personal knowledge. Who specifically assigned you to talk to Jason Ramey?
That would be Special Agent in Charge Williams.
Williams. All right, the person I talked to before, all right? So you would have gotten a call and told to meet with Jason Ramey?
I don't believe I had a call. I mean,
Oh, he's in the office with you?
yes, sir.
Okay, I got you.
His office was beside of mine.
I see. All right. Now, when you talked to Lee Farmer, that was the second person you talked to, is that right?
Give me a moment.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. Jason Ramey was the first person you talked to.
Yes, sir.
All right, who was the second?
Sheriff Mike Welch,
Okay. And the date you talked to him?
May 18th, 2016.
All right. Well, that will frame our time frame. You meet with Jason Ramey on April 6th of 2016. Is that right?
That's correct.
You had received no documentation or paperwork about the December 2015 meeting, right?
I had no paperwork.
And when Jason Ramey comes in to see you and you do the interview, does he start with they're hiring each other's wives, or does he start with a different situation?
Give me a moment to locate that interview.
Okay.
It's been 2 years since I've seen this stuff. No, sir, he did not begin with that.
In fact, when he started with the complaint with you, he alleged that Tyler Henderson was a law student at North Carolina Central University and being paid by District Attorney Craig Blitzer as a legal assistant. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
And ADA Ramey alleged to you that Tyler Henderson was being paid by the state for not doing a job. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then he indicated to you that Blitzer had told the employees that Henderson was a legal assistant. Is that right?
That's correct.
So the first allegation out of the gate is that as of y'all's meeting, April 6, 2016, an allegation that actually Tyler Henderson was going to school and not doing the job and getting paid. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, as a part of this preliminary inquiry, did you start with that in terms of checking out to see what ADA Ramey had told you was true?
I may have. Yes. On April the 8th, 2016, I did speak with someone by telephone.
And after that inquiry on April 8th, you found out that that was not true. Is that right?
I did.
Okay. So the allegation that Tyler Henderson was in law school and getting paid for not working was not true, right?
Was not true.
Okay. All right. Isn't it true that ADA Ramey also indicated to you that he had gone online to check Tyler Henderson's salary and shared that with you?
He did.
And isn't it true he described to you that Henderson was brought over with another legal assistant a couple of months ago? And you have that statement, don't you?
Yes, sir.
If you ever don't have it, just stop me and I'll get you a copy.
Okay.
Okay. So, he indicated to you that Tyler Henderson had actually started with the office a couple of months ago, isn't that right?
That's correct.
But when you checked that out, that wasn't true either, was it?
It was not.
All right, then he went on to give you a list of other names and timesheet issues. And he gave you information about what's written down as sharing talent between the Person Caswell and Rockingham office. Is that right?
That is correct.
And in terms of the first part of your report, it's all about Tyler Henderson and him not working and this talent sharing arrangement between the two districts. Is that right?
That's correct.
And he gave you lists of names of employees that could verify all that. Is that right?
He did.
Okay. As we get into the second half of the report, it gets into how should I phrase this? All right, do you see on the bottom of page 2 that you indicate in your report, Ramey stated Cindy Blitzer, Craig Blitzer's wife, would work in Bradsher's district attorney's office and Pam Bradsher would work in Blitzer's office?
I do.
All right. He indicated to you at that point that Pam Bradsher was not working there and that Tyler Henderson was. Is that right?
He did.
Okay. He also revealed to you that Cindy Blitzer was assigned or allowed to work from home. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then he told you about the school situation.
He did.
In that April 6, 2016 meeting, did he also not tell you that Craig Blitzer had had employees to do online classes for his wife, Cindy Blitzer?
He did.
All right. And so when we were describing to the jury this initial, not investigation, but inquiry to see if there'd be an investigation, did the SBI initiate an inquiry to open an investigation about the allegation that Craig Blitzer was having employees on state time to take online courses for his wife?
I was not involved in anything like that. If that was pursued, it would have been looked at after I retired.
Okay, well, that's why we're talking about it. Since you were the initial contact person, April 6th, how do you decide to pursue one investigation, not the other? Is that an agent in charge decision? You would agree from 18 years of experience with SBI that having employees on state time take courses on a state computer for a DA's wife would be a criminal offense, wouldn't it?
It would.
Okay. So my question is, would you make the discretionary decision not to pursue that, or is that an agent in charge decision, or was it pursued? I just don't know.
It was not pursued by me or anyone in the Greensboro office.
Okay. And not as to anybody else's thoughts, but as to you, could you tell us why?
It was not pursued by me. I followed up the Cindy Blitzer and Ms. Bradsher to try to determine whether they were employed and being paid by the state.
Okay. So was it a discretionary call on your part that you were going to pursue that, but not the class situation?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you think, because you know the procedure better than me, would you have handed this off to anybody else to initiate an investigation about that?
Everything that I had was provided to the Special Investigations Unit of the SBI after I retired. What decisions they made at that time would have been their decisions and the supervising Superior Court judge who was reviewing the case decision, not myself.
So Judge Crosswhite eventually would have seen this report that you wrote up with regards to Jason Ramey and the allegations that he made?
I don't know what Judge Crosswhite would have seen.
Okay, let me ask you this. That's a good point, because you retired. Let's start with Judge Osmond Smith.
Okay.
When you went and talked with Judge Osmond Smith and presented information, he indicated to you he would have a conflict in making that decision. Is that right?
He did.
And so, as judges do, they recuse themselves. He contacts AOC, and then another judge is assigned. Is that right?
That's correct.
And could you tell the jury, where is Judge Crosswhite located?
I have no personal knowledge of where he is. I believe Mr. Whitley may have told me he was out of Statesville.
Okay. So my question is, when you went to Judge Smith, if you could tell the jury, what information would you give Judge Smith? Would you give them typed up reports, a synopsis, or what would you do?
We provided Judge Smith with a verbal of what we had found up to that point.
Okay, and would that verbal have included that Craig Blitzer was having employees take online classes for his wife?
I don't recall what information we provided. At that point, when Agent Whitley and myself went to his home, I don't recall what if we provided that information to him.
All right, but you are sure that you provided that you'd done the surveillance. Cindy Blitzer's car was at the nursing school. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that you had talked with Lee Farmer and Sheriff Welch. Is that right?
I'm not certain if I told him that I had spoke with Sheriff Welch and Lee Farmer.
All right. How about Debbie Holbrook?
I'm not certain. If I told him I spoke with Miss Holbrook.
Okay. All right.
It's been 2 years. I
understand.
gave him a general of everything that I had found out.
All right, and trying to clarify this time frame, after the April 6th meeting with Jason Ramey, the date of your next meeting with any witness is what date?
Well, I would have made the telephone call to Mr. Benfield on April the 8th, but I did not meet with him.
All right.
My next meeting would have been with Sheriff Mike Welch on May 18th.
All right. And if I could stop you there, between April 8th and May 18th, were any of that surveillance going on that the district attorney went through with you?
No, sir.
Anything else going on in the investigation between April 8th and May 18th?
No, sir.
All right. And then what did you do after May 18th?
I'm sorry. I actually spoke with Miss Holbrook on May 16th.
Okay.
So Mr. Farmer was May 18th.
All right. And then after Mr. Farmer, what would have been your next contact with a witness?
Actually, I see Mr. Farmer on May 23. Do you have a May 18th interview with him?
I do not.
So I was wrong when I provided you May 18th. I met with Mr. Farmer on May 23.
Right? And then when do you speak with Ms. Tant?
Miss Tant being Miss Watkins at the
Also-
time.
Yes, that's correct.
I met with her on June 30th, 2016 at Administrative Office of the Court here in Raleigh.
All right. Prior to June 30th, had you met with anybody else at AOC?
No, sir.
And is she the one that you asked to confirm Cindy Blitzer's salary and who her supervisor was?
That's correct.
When you went and talked with Miss Watkins, who's also Miss Tant, it's interchangeable in the book, she said that John Stoltz III was the supervisor. Is that right?
That's correct.
Did she indicate to you anything else like, and no supervisor has approved Cindy Blitzer's time since a certain date?
No, sir.
All right. Can you recall the interaction with Miss, do you prefer Watkins or Tant? I'll stick with one.
Miss Watkins.
Okay, Miss
That's how I
Watkins.
remember.
All right. Do you remember any other interaction with Miss Watkins, giving you any information about either Cindy Blitzer's salary and the fact that Jay Stoltz was the person that was on Beacon to approve the time?
She did tell me that Mr. Henderson, Tyler Henderson, was reflected as having moved from the 9A prosecutorial district to 17A prosecutorial district.
All right. And then back in your previous interview with Ramey, he indicated that Melinda Richardson said that was a sharing situation between the two districts?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So in terms of the sequence of events, after getting that information from Ms. Watkins, and then you've done the surveillance, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what leads you in July to a Superior Court judge.
We met with the Superior Court Judge Smith in August.
August, okay. Do you have the date that you met?
No, sir.
Do you have any notes from that meeting?
I do not.
All right, in the synopsis, it indicates July 18th, 2016. Does that sound correct?
That we met with Judge Smith?
With Judge Smith.
And my apologies if I said August. I did not write the synopsis,
Okay.
and I don't recall when we met with Judge Smith, if it was in July or if it was in August.
All right, in terms of just trying to track this down so we can get the facts straight, the synopsis indicates July 18th, 2016, a meeting with ASAC Mays and D.B. Whitley. Do you believe that is a correct date, or is your recollection different than what's documented in the synopsis?
I have no recollection of the date,
Okay.
only what you say, and again, I did not write the synopsis.
Okay. And do you know, as a matter of policy, who is the one that documents the synopsis?
The case agent.
And in this case, that would be Agent Whitley?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that procedure for a minute. Every encounter that you as an agent have in the field, it's part of policy to write notes. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then at some point in the future, you transfer those notes into a typed statement. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is it also policy of the SBI not to record interviews?
interviews in 2016, when I was employed there, the policy of the SBI was to record homicides, major first-degree homicides, Class A felonies, officer-involved shootings, I believe. And again, some of this stuff is a little gray right
I know
now.
you've crossed over into Forsyth County.
Exactly.
Best you recall.
But generally we take notes, and we take our notes and we type it from the notes into the system. Only certain things are recorded, and again, I remember, of course, capital murder cases
All right.
would be recorded.
And in general, and I'll ask you specifically in a minute, what's the lag time between taking the notes and then sitting down and typing a report?
It depends on whichever agent. I believe the policy at that time was 15 days, I think, from the date that you do an interview or whatever to where you have to put it in the system.
All right. So you're typing that report part from memory, but part with the assistance of your notes. Is that right?
It should not be from memory, it should be from your notes.
Specifically what you wrote down.
That's correct.
Okay. And with regards to Jason Ramey's statement of April 6th, do you recall when that was entered into a typed form?
No, sir. I had been an agent for 18 years, and I knew policy, I believe, at the time was 15 days, and I would have done it within 15 days. But the date that I did it, I have no idea.
Okay. And then Debbie Holbrook, you took that statement on May 16th, and same answer. It had to be within 15 days, but you don't recall when it was translated from notes to statement.
That's correct. I always did mine within 15 days.
And when you talked to AOC, was there any type of subpoena or anything involved, or it was just a walk and talk, hey, can you look this up and tell me this information?
There were no subpoenas.
Okay. All right. And she did not say anything to you about the status of there actually being approval from AOC for the time that Cindy Blitzer had entered in the last 4 months? They just said Jay Stoltz was assigned to sign off on it.
That's correct.
All right. And really, after the Judge Smith interaction, you weren't involved with this case at all, right?
I was not.
Until it was time to come back and get ready to testify.
That's correct.
Okay.
Approximately a month and a half ago, maybe.
In Lee Farmer's statement to you, he indicated he talked with a lady named Catherine Jean with the State Bar.
He did.
Did you follow up with that?
I did not at that time.
Okay. So do you know or recall how you got from ADA Ramey, who had already talked to one agent, and to you, to Lee Farmer?
I think I may have been provided that information by Sheriff Welch.
Okay. So after talking with Sheriff Welch, that's what led you to Lee Farmer?
I believe so.
Okay. And after talking with Lee Farmer, the AOC contact was on your own. Just made sense to check, verify on the salary.
Yes, sir.
All right. Other than what you testified to, are you familiar with any notes or statements that you would have prepared as part of this investigation that
Yes, sir.
have not been provided to the state?
I don't know what would have been provided to
All
the
right, well,
state.
let me ask you this. Who else did you talk to?
No one else.
Okay. All right.
But I did make, when you said notes, it was not a SBI official note. As you know, it was a roadmap for special investigations who would be taking the case since I was retiring.
Is when you did that transition that roadmap, did you give them the additional information of the additional alleged crimes of Craig Blitzer having employees do classes?
Yes, sir.
All right, that was handed off as well.
It was.
Okay, and that would have occurred after Judge Crosswhite authorized?
Yeah, Judge Crosswhite would authorize the SBI and tell us what he wanted us to look at after he had reviewed everything that was provided to him.
But as we talked about earlier, you would have retired before that, is that right? So in terms of what was provided to him, you don't have any personal knowledge, is that right?
I have no idea what was provided to Judge Crosswhite.
Okay, and the date you retired is?
August 31st, 2016.
One last question and I'm done. Can you give me the chain of command in the Greensboro district, starting with Agent Strader, who would have talked with ADA Ramey in December of 2015?
The chain of command?
Yes, sir.
I believe Agent Strader was being supervised by Agent Norman, Brian Norman, and above him is Special Agent in Charge Scott Williams. And as I told you, there are 3 assistant special agents in charge, and I was one of those 3.
Okay. And it wasn't until April of 2016 that Scott Williams, who's at the top of that chain of command, called you to have this meeting with Ramey. Is that right?
I believe it was in April of 2016.
But Scott Williams called you.
It was not a call. It would have been,
Oh, that's right.
Our
You're in the
office.
same office. Scott Williams comes to you in April and says, I want you to meet with ADA Ramey.
We made a decision to do that, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your patience.
Sure. Redirect, Mr. Latour.
Briefly, Your Honor, thank you. I think it's pretty clear you don't know what went to Judge Crosswhite, correct?
I have no idea what was provided to Judge Crosswhite.
All right. At some point, though, you were given information that you needed to talk to Jason Ramey.
That is correct.
And when you received the information, you followed up on it, right?
I did.
All right. And that led you to follow up with a couple different things, as we've already talked about, right?
That's correct.
One of those things that you talked about and was elicited on cross-examination was this Tyler Henderson Law School idea, correct?
That's correct.
Jason Ramey provided you with that information that he believed Tyler Henderson was going to law school and was still being paid by the state.
That's correct.
And the question was posed on cross-examination that, well, that wasn't true, correct?
Correct.
And you say that because you reached out to the law school that he was supposedly involved in, which was North Carolina Central, correct?
That's correct.
Now, when you reached out to North Carolina Central Law School, the information that you received was not that Tyler Henderson had never attended that law school, correct?
Let me find that. That would be the interview I did with Mr. Benefield.
Correct, Octavius Benefield, I believe.
Let me locate that. I contacted him to determine if Mr. Henderson was still a student at North Carolina Central School of Law.
Was still a student.
Yes, sir.
And were you provided information that he had in fact been a student at North Carolina Central Law?
Yes, sir.
What was the information that you received?
Mr. Benefield indicated that his computers showed Mr. Henderson had been a student at the university until the spring of 2014.
So the spring of the year before this investigation occurs?
2 springs before that.
2 springs before, okay. Well,
Well, I'm sorry. Yes, I retired in 2016, and I began looking at it in April of 2016. But Mr. Benefield, according to what he told me, Mr. Henderson had been a student at the university until the spring of 2014.
okay. So the proposition that, and I guess this is what the cross-examination was about, that Tyler Henderson was still being paid to go to law school was untrue.
Objection to that.
Or was it
conclusion.
untrue?
Overruled. Go ahead.
He was not a student when I spoke with Mr. Benefield.
You could not, or could you, rather, conclude based on your investigation of this whether that had ever occurred, and by that I mean that Tyler Henderson had attended North Carolina Central Law School while being employed and paid by the state of North Carolina?
I did not pursue that.
Okay. So you don't know whether that was true or untrue?
I do not know.
You only can say, or is it that you can only say at the present time he was not?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Bradsher.
Briefly, appreciate your attention to detail on the 2 springs. I asked you a couple of questions to clear up what the prosecutor just brought up. You never had any information that Tyler Henderson was paid to go to law school, did you?
No, sir.
All right. And with regards to the specific allegation ADA Ramey made that Craig Blitzer was paying him to go to law school, you found that to be not true. Is that correct? Because he wasn't in school.
He was not in school. That's correct.
And with regards to a later investigation to determine Tyler Henderson's involvement in law school and the number of hours he worked while he was in law school, you were not part of that investigation, are you?
I was not part of that.
Did you document here in the report any other reason ADA Ramey would say directly that Henderson was presently in law school and being paid by Craig Blitzer? Did he give you any evidence to support that
He did
allegation?
not. He did not, and I don't recall following that up.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
There, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
10 minutes till 1, so we'll go ahead and recess for lunch at this time, and we'll resume at 20 minutes past 2, so that's an hour and a half from now. Please recall the instructions. Don't talk among yourselves about the case, members of the jury, or with anyone else. Please don't form or express opinions about the outcome. No media or independent investigation into these matters, and no conversations with parties, witnesses, or lawyers. Leave your materials there in the chair. Gather in the deliberation room at 20 minutes past 2. If everyone else would remain seated while the jurors excuse themselves. Outside the presence of the jury, are there any matters that we need to take up before we recess?
Only that I would ask that we release Mr. Mays from his subpoena.
Any objection?
I did not subpoena him, so I know the state can release him, but if they do, I probably will put him back under subpoena as a possibility. So I could either ask you to hold him, but he doesn't have to stay, or I can reissue a subpoena myself. I'll leave it to you, Your Honor.
I'm happy to leave him under subpoena. Just what type of notice? 48-hour, 24-hour? I want to be reasonable to allow him to go about his day.
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely. Not till defense evidence. So,
right.
And I will definitely give as much notice as he needs.
All right, 24-hour?
Or even 48 is fine.
He's saying 24 should be sufficient for him.
Okay, so we'll keep you under subpoena, sir. You're free to go about your business, and with the assurance that you'll be given at least 24 hours notice if you're needed back in the courtroom.
And Your Honor,
Well, actually, my son is going to NC State, and we have orientation in 2 days, 3 days.
Do you know those dates?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, we can do this off the record. Right. Did you have something else you needed, sir?
just briefly, based on the cross, and one of the reasons why I'd like to have Mr. Mays available, I would ask for a supplemental discovery order with regards to this time frame of the December 2015 through the testimony today. I do know that the Special Prosecutor Tom Ford did follow up on this, and it generated a couple of new reports. It was a part of new discovery, that whether or not documents or notes exist from December 2015, first contact with the SBI till this testimony, and I asked for it out of an abundance of caution because there was a transition from retirement to
the agency, and there is a hole in terms of activity that I cannot explain from the discovery, so I simply make that request.
All right, so December 2015 through today,
April 6th of 2016.
that's the hole you're
Yes, sir.
talking about. And that's fine, Ms. Latour, if you could make inquiries as to whether there are any notes or reports that document anything between December 2015 and April 6, 2016.
We will make an inquiry. I know that it will only be as to notes, though, because I think the reports have already been handed over, and I think those were generated based upon our investigation into the matter, what we had discovered. That's why those reports were generated and were provided to council.
That's fine.
That was all, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Then we'll be in recess until 20 past 2. If you all would confer about those dates that Mr. Meyer might be unavailable, so that Mr. Bradsher, you have that in mind if you do need to recall him.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. We'll be in recess.